Hello, all, and before we begin, apology from my end. We got delayed a minute, but uh, no regrets. We have our speaker uh, up next, like Jermain Njemanze. He's EMEA lead solution engineer at Filigran with over 8 years of experience in cybersecurity. Jermaine will dive into how cyber threat intelligence can enhance security operations in automotive industry. And he has a demo as well, which can showcase how we can improve incident response and efficiency. Please join me in welcoming Jermaine and Jimanji. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Jermain Njemanze, representing Filigran. For today's session, driving efficiency, validating your security posture with sector-relevant intelligence, I have the following agenda to put forward. First of all, for many of you, this might be the first time that you're hearing about our company, Filigran. So I'd like to give you a quick overview of who we are so that you understand why we're here today and why why you should be interested in what we have to offer. Then I will dive into information regarding who's been targeting the automotive industry and the top cyber threats that I have seen targeting the automotive industry in the last 20 months. Um, I'll then cover what it is that security professionals typically do with this type of information. Now that you know what threats are targeting your industry, how do you put that information into operation? How do you use that context to secure your networks? Then, as mentioned, I will provide a very quick demonstration to show you in action one of the many ways that you can operationalize for intelligence. And finally, we have time dedicated at the end of the session for questions and answers from the attendees. So first of all, who is Filigran? What is our vision? What do we represent? So our strategic focus as a company is to deliver software solutions covering cyber threat management. So that involves enabling our customers to be able to manage the threat intelligence that they're working with, make it easy for them to get value out of it and share it when necessary. We also provide breach and attack simulation platforms. And what we will be providing in the near future is also an enterprise risk management solution. Now, what's special about Filigran and the software we provide is that at our core, our company's mission is to democratize threat intelligence and to be able to enable as many organizations as possible to better secure their infrastructure using threat intelligence, amongst other things. And to accomplish this, we have, our software exists as open source solutions, which are available right away on GitHub for you to take a look at. I'm thinking of OpenCTI and Open BAS, also known as Open Base, BAS. As a company, we do provide technical support to users of our solutions. We provide cloud hosting as well, and there are some special features of ours which require a commercial license. That's what the Enterprise Edition features represent. In terms of the company itself, from a holistic point of view, we were established in September 2022, so we just turned 2 years old. We are the new kid on the block with the leading edge technology ready to deliver. In terms of employees, we're over 60 employees and counting. Our headquarters are located in France, but we have operations also in Australia and in North America. From all the statistics we've gathered regarding our active Slack community, over 4,000 active members, and from all the GitHub downloads we believe roughly 4,500 organizations around the world are using our software today across 60 different countries. So far, we've raised 20 million euros in our seed round, and our Series A funding round, and we currently have over 70 enterprise customers around the world. Now, enough talking about Filigran. Let's get to the meat and bones. Who has been targeting the automotive industry in the past 12 months? Now, this information what I pulled together for this webinar is information which I've pulled from a wide variety of sources, and you'll find at the bottom of each slide the original source that was from which I gathered this information. And this kind of illustrates pretty well the whole point of threat intelligence, getting as much information as you can from a wide variety of sources. One of the first things I wanted to talk about regarding my findings were the advanced persistent threats I noticed that were targeting the automotive industry, namely APT-32, also known as the Ocean Lotus Group. Now, what you'll find is that these threats have many different names. APT-32 is one naming convention, the APT, Advanced Persistent Threat, then the number. Also, they have their own proper name, Ocean Lotus Group. What's special about this group and why it caught my eye is because since 2019, they've had a marked preference for targeting the automotive industry. We know where, and so obviously this is relevant to everyone attending the session today. And in terms of further context, we know where it comes from information gathered from these many sources I've consulted. We know it's a Vietnamese-based threat group. We know that they are motivated by, well, industrial espionage and bolstering their own domestic automotive policies, thanks to the information that they steal, essentially, from organizations such as yours. And why we know that APTs such as, well, our understanding and why we believe that APT-32 is such a big nuisance is because, when they target automotive industries, the methods they use typically impact your manufacturing operations, which is a big deal when we're talking about the automotive industry, as opposed to the healthcare or financial services, etc. So knowing, why this type of information is important is because when you know what type of threats are targeting you, it's much easier for you to recognize them and also anticipate next steps in terms of what's to come from that type of threat. How do they operate? And this is what I'm showing in these screenshots. We know, for example, that APT-32 heavily uses Cobalt Strike. We know which threats it likes to target. We know what type of malware they're using. We know the indicators of compromise to recognize that they have been tampering with your network and the various different toolkits they're using. Another type of threat, closely related to advanced persistent threats, actually, is ransomware, the omnipresent threat. The reason why I call this omnipresent is because everyone and their grandma is talking about ransomware. It's everywhere, and it's been everywhere for years. It's on the tip of everyone's tongue. Everyone's always concerned about ransomware. But in particular, why I find this one to be relevant to the automotive industry and to today's session is because ransomware and the way it behaves, it's particularly efficient or effective, should I say, from the criminal's point of view because of the direct impact it has on your business. When your computers are locked up, specifically manufacturing computers in the factory, whether it's your direct factories or members of your supply chain, immediately brings business to a halt, because if the machines can't produce your cars and your car parts anymore, then we're in big trouble, big trouble. So we know that this particular example, which I'm showing, Lockbit, earlier in the year, there was a massive crackdown to seize a lot of the gang's assets, online, and both online assets, but also actual human beings running the operations. But despite that, the software itself still exists in the wild. It's still being updated, maintained, and new variants are coming out. Now, what's interesting about Lockbit, and generally speaking about threat intelligence, again, when you know what malware is heavily targeting you, and you know what malware is used against you, you know how it behaves, or at least you can anticipate how it behaves, and better protect yourself and assess if your security controls are ready to deal with the type of methods used by malware such as Lockbit. In this screenshot, I'm showing you a screenshot of the MITRE ATT&CK framework and all the techniques that come from the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which have been identified as used by Lockbit. Again, trying to understand the behavior of the malware so as to better protect ourselves against it. Now, finally, third type of threat I wanted to bring to your attention, again, why this is so important and specific to the automotive industry: phishing and business/vendor email compromise. Now, as I'm sure we all know, many different organizations get involved in the development and production of a car. You have the tire manufacturers, the engine, paint, the shops selling your the franchises selling your cars, etc. All sorts of different companies involved in this one product, and that makes for a wide, vast, oftentimes confusing vendor ecosystem when we take into account all different supply chains across, distributed across the globe in different countries. And that's why this type of attack is still prevalent today. Phishing, spear phishing, etc. And also to a certain extent typo squatting, because when we talk about phishing and duping your colleagues, it often boils down to them misreading or misreading a domain name that looks legitimate for an email address but actually is not. The reason why this is so successful is because when you have so many different partners and supply chains to manage, and in terms of your human resources, members from finance, legal, etc., those who are less tech savvy, it's very easy to confuse them with all these different, misleading logos and email addresses and so on and so forth. Why? Another reason, of course, why these threats or the threats that would use these methods target the automotive industry is simply because of all the money involved in the production of cars and the sales of cars. A lot of high value transactions for parts and for common inventory. These threat actors, they're not doing this for fun. They're doing it for financial gains. They're looking for the most lucrative opportunities. And as I said, because most of the victims are typically the less tech savvy colleagues of ours in less tech oriented departments, legal, finance, human resource, marketing, etc., they are prime targets for these types of simple yet effective attack methods. Now that you know, or now that you have some additional insights on the type of threats that your industry is facing, your organizations are facing, what should you do with this? And how do people use threat intelligence anyway to be most effective? So to answer that question, I put together this quick illustration. It's an animated presentation. I hope the animation comes across well. Where we talk about threat intelligence, we're talking about information on the latest threats, and this information can expire quite quickly. There are new threats being reported all the time, and you want to make sure that you have the latest and greatest information and you can act upon this, which is why we talk about the life cycle, the life and death, of course, of information. When I say death, no one's really dying. I'm just talking about the information expiring. All of the information that I previously presented on the past slides, that counts as threat intelligence. It's the information on how the threats that are targeting you operate. Information like who they are, what methods do they use, how do you identify them. And this information can be used to determine your security strategy. The better you know the threats, the better you can prepare yourself against them. But before you start collecting this threat intelligence, first of all, you need to plan what is it that you need. So you plan for the information you want, you start collecting it, you process it, typically through automated means, because there's a lot of information out there. You want to focus on what's most important. You perform your analysis to identify trends, patterns, you share the information with the relevant stakeholders, you gather feedback, and then you start again. Now, how that looks in action, when we talk about planning and collecting the data, what are we planning for and what are we collecting? Well, we're collecting cyber threat data. As I mentioned before, indicators of compromise, for example, information on the vulnerabilities that they're using, that the malware would exploit to be successful. What type of assets of yours are concerned by these types of threats? Then, when we talk about processing and analyzing this data, automation is key, but automation based on a specific type of logic, right? We want to modelize the threat. Are we talking about micro attack? Or do we understand where we are in the kill chain of the threat? Is this the beginning of an attack, at the middle, or at the end? Are we too early? Are we too late? Are we right on time? And then when we talk about sharing and feedback, well, first of all, sharing isn't just sharing with human people. It can also be integrating that information with your security software. So, for example, detection in your SIEM or your EDR, your firewall, performing instant response. Maybe there has already been a detected breach and you want to remediate that situation, shut it down as quickly as possible. Maybe you want to simulate the attack ahead of time to prepare yourself. And once you've done all that, you've been through the cycle and you want to share the feedback, share your deliverables to your colleagues who will act upon this information. who will be able to make better decisions regarding your security strategy, your security budget, etc. We're talking about reports, we're talking about dashboards, we're talking about collecting the lessons learned. And then finally, going through that loop and starting again. Now, remember I mentioned at the beginning of the call, Filigran, we provide software solutions that help customers get the most out of threat intelligence and also help them perform breach and attack simulation. This is what our vision is, our extended threat management suite. This threat data, like the examples I've shared at the beginning of the call, they will come into your OpenCTI, your threat intelligence platform, where you'll perform your analysis, your centralization of data, and they'll also help populate your breach and attack platform, OpenBAS. We can also use that information to populate your enterprise risk management and essentially help you assess the risk you're facing, put a dollar value on these types of threats that are targeting you. What would happen if they actually were successful? How much would we lose? And all of our solutions are highly compatible with market leading vendors in the threat intelligence space and the security prevention, detection and prevention space. I'm thinking of market leading threat intelligence feed providers, enrichment sources, CM, data lake, EDR, proxy, firewall, etc. We have a wide, and SOAR, of course, as well. We have a wide variety of integrations available to make sure that you're getting the most out of the information you're collecting on these bad guys, on Ocean Lotus, on Lockbit, on phishing campaigns, etc. Now, I'm going to temporarily stop sharing so that I can switch screens from my PowerPoint presentation to my demo instance, and I hope I don't break anything in doing so. And so let me bring this over here, or should I say over here? That would be better. And if I go back to my present to audience, here we should see my screen appearing in 3, 2, 1, share. Okay, looks like it's working. My screen looks a little bit dark. I hope it's okay for the attendees. Let's see. Sorry, is it just me or does it look very dark, the screen? No? Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. Okay, right, so maybe it's just dark on my screen. So what I'm showing you right now is the OpenCTI interface. As I mentioned, OpenCTI is the platform in which you centralize all the threat intelligence that you're gathering. So here, for example, I'm showing you a custom dashboard which I built specifically for today's session. But it's a very typical example of how people get like KPIs, metrics, etc., from the threat intelligence. They want to have a quick overview of exactly what it is they're facing. I log into the platform and straight away I want to see what should I be concerned with right now. So some examples of widgets that our customers build for their dashboards are widgets, for example, highlighting what are the top threats, the top threat actor groups that have been targeted, at least reported as targeting their sector. In this case, we're considering the transport sector. Within the transport sector, we also have air transport, maritime, rail, road, etc. But just to keep things simple, we're looking at the transport sector. And now of all these threats that have been reported as targeting the threat sector, what malware have they been reported as using the most? I see Cobalt Strike. Remember, I mentioned Cobalt Strike being used by APT32. I also see PlugX, etc. And of all these malware being used by those threats, what CVEs are exploited the most by that malware, by the malware that is being used by threats that target your industrial sector? Now, these are just some examples that give you great ideas of starting points for an investigation. When we talk about threat intelligence, as I mentioned, we are planning, collecting, and we're planning based on suspicions, hypotheses. I suspect this type of threat might target me because I have offices in this country, in that country, because I have, I'm based in these types of industrial sectors which are being targeted by these types of bad guys, because I use this type of software which has this type of vulnerability. And this is all great starting points for investigation. Everyone loves a nice, colorful dashboard. And you can also export this to share with management, again, to justify your research. Now, this particular widget, which I'd like to draw your attention to, latest reports on ransomware in road transport. This one is showing me the latest reports that have come into my platform from the wide variety of sources I've subscribed to that are relevant to my sector. This one in particular, I'm going to click on this Goot Loader. So here I'm giving an overview of this report. It happens to come from Alienvault, an open source feed. I get a quick description. The ongoing bootloader campaign expands its scope to highly sensitive assets worldwide, including financial, military, automotive, that's why this came up in my dashboard, pharmaceutical and energy sectors operating on an initial access as a service model. That's good. That's great information. What do I do with that? Well, several things that you could do. As a threat intelligence analyst, I might want to pivot into the knowledge graph to get a better understanding of all these different elements provided in the report. And when I say elements, I mean we have information such as the malware itself, bootloader. We have information such as the indicators of compromise, the indicators that you would use, that you would send downstream, for example, to your firewall to block, or to your CM solution or your data lake to confirm, have we seen this before? We also have information on how the threat behaves, its attack patterns, and then of course its targets, its victims. If I zoom in a little bit, you'll see all these arrows are labeled. They show you the relationships that exist. Very, very important for contextual purposes, understanding what's going on. Now, if we talk about how OpenCTI, or should I say threat intelligence, has traditionally been used, threat intelligence is basically information on events that have happened in the past at other organizations, within other organizations' infrastructure, things that have happened in the past. And how it's commonly used is I send that downstream into my detection tools to compare that against past logs. All right, so we're looking at the past threat intelligence, external information, and we're comparing that against past internal information, which is all very looking backwards. What we suggest at Filigran is taking this information to look forwards into the future. And what I mean by looking forwards is let's take this information and test ourselves before the bad guy tests us. Let me check my security before APT32 or before Lockbit or any such threat lands in my network and tests my defenses myself. To compare this to a real world analogy, when you leave your house and to go shopping, for example, you lock your front door. At least in most countries in the West, we'll lock our front door. Some countries, maybe not so concerned, but I certainly lock my door when I leave my house. And even though I saw myself lock my door and turn the key, I still pull down on the door handle just to make sure the door is locked and it's not going to accidentally open if I push it. This is the same idea. You have your security controls in place, you have information on how the bad guys operate, and you want to check just to be on the safe side. I have an EDR, but just to be on the safe side, let me see how it would behave if this threat targeted me. I have a proxy, I have a firewall, I have identity access management, but let me just check and make sure that they would behave appropriately and block these threats if this type of attack was carried out in my network. Now, what I'm showing you here is by clicking on the simulate button in OpenCTI, OpenBase automatically created an attack scenario for me. And when I say automatically, I mean that it's basically lined up all the different attacks involved in this threat report, mapped them to a timeline, which I can then edit as I see fit. And how this actually works is every attack pattern involved in that report maps out to a type of simulation, like executing a PowerShell script, executing a command line prompt, downloading a custom payload like a malicious file and running it, etc., etc. And here I can choose in my interface what type of or which computers of mine I want to run this on. Now, bearing in mind OpenBAS as a breach and attack simulation platform, it depends on agents which are deployed in your instance. We can use agents such as your EDR endpoints. We can use agents such as the OpenBAS agents, which we can deploy locally, Caldera as well. We can also simulate attacks such as phishing by sending emails, or smishing by sending text messages from using the SMS integration. These simulations are sent and executed by your, as I mentioned, EDR endpoints, agents, sorry, should I say, the open base agent. And how we confirm whether these attacks were successful or not is by gathering information back from your Sentinel, your Defender, EDR, so on and so forth. Now, I know with time's running out, I want to leave time for questions, but the last thing I wanted to show is when we talk about confirming whether these attacks were successful or not, this is a key part, the lessons learned. What we do here is we want to be able to confirm if from one test to the next, we have increased our detection rate and our prevention rate or not. You run the test the first time, perhaps you have a low detection rate and zero prevention. You make the necessary security control adjustments and you run the test again, and you'll see the green bar go from 8 to 10 to 20. And from day to day, week to week, month to month, you can see very visually, very clearly, your security strategy improving and your security controls effectiveness improving as well. And that's the whole life cycle of threat intelligence. Get the threat intelligence to know how the bad guy operates, test yourself using OpenBAS, and then make the necessary adjustments with metrics, with KPI and dashboards, etc., available to justify your decisions and basically set everyone's mind at ease. I'll stop presenting there. And first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for their attention. If you're still with me, and I'd be very happy to answer any questions from the floor.
Thank
I
you,
see all the emojis
Jermain.
floating. Thank you.
Yeah, audiences really enjoyed the session, but we do have one or two questions. Maybe we can take it up. Uh, Let me just.
I think, sorry,
Maybe
I don't know if you, there was one thing I just remembered. We do have a prize giveaway. We do have a prize giveaway from Filigran. Depends on answering a very simple question. So since I haven't seen any questions yet, I'll ask the audience one question. And this is to check if you were paying attention. The question is, what was the name of the advanced persistent threat that I mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation? I will accept either the number, the advanced persistent threats number, or the name. And actually, we'll accept whoever provides both. Actually, we'll prioritize whoever provides both answers. That's who will get the prize, the giveaway.
That's good. I think like audience has the pretty good idea behind the contest. So I would really appreciate the audience to respond to Jermain and reach out during their booth. You can directly interact with them, provide your answer in person, face to face itself, and take your giveaway and gifts. And we might not be able to take further questions here. We are running out of a time, but I would really like to thank you, Jeremy, your time and efforts for this presentation, sharing the knowledge with our audience. And by seeing the emojis, I can understand how full of energy they are and how much they have enjoyed the insights which you have provided. So thank you so much and for your participation, and thank you all, everybody. Please enjoy the remaining sessions what we have in conference, and have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jitendra. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.